welcome to Night City, and welcome to our commentary on Cyberpunk 2077.
Up an appetite just waiting. Sit down, let me finish this. Then we can drop in on Senor Vector.
If you listened to episode 181, you will know that I named Cyberpunk 2077 as my personal game of the year. Yes, the game released in 2020 around the same time as Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but as is often the case, after having Cyberpunk in my wishlist for a couple of years, I finally bought the game late one Friday evening at the end of September 2024, and it immediately hooked me. In this video, I'm going to expand on my nomination and give some commentary on what I think makes this game truly special. But Cyberpunk 2077 isn't just my game of the year. I think it's the most immersive, most interesting, most engrossing and enjoyable game I have ever experienced. When I said to my daughter that I was writing this review and Cyberpunk was my new favourite, she said, "Wait, better than Assassin's Creed? Are you allowed to say that?" So yeah, usually here we talk about Assassin's Creed, but I have a lot to say about Cyberpunk, and at certain points I might refer and contrast between Cyberpunk 2077 and Assassin's Creed. However, even with 200 hours logged in Night City over the past 4 months, there are multiple life paths, multiple dialogue options, multiple side quests and main quest outcomes, and multiple game endings. With so much ground to cover, in this commentary you're going to hear from me, but you are also going to hear from frequent podcast guest, amazing artist and epic cosplayer who has multiple Cyberpunk cosplays in their wardrobe, Rue.
Hello, I'm Rue. I create things and talk about media a lot. A piece of media that I love to talk about is of course Cyberpunk 2077. Much like the Assassin's Creed series, Cyberpunk is a game that I feel deeply about. It's a genre-defining game with an ever-relatable story of survival and identity. Not a day goes by where I don't think about this game in some capacity. I am hoping that in this video I can express some of my thoughts and feelings about this game.
Okay, let's summarise. Play the game. It's awesome. In this commentary, Rue and I are going to discuss the gameplay, story themes, character, the impact this game has had on us, but we aren't going to specifically detail the endings we've experienced or major story points. If you're planning to play Cyberpunk and want a completely spoiler-free experience, then do not watch this video, but if you're okay with some light, early game topics and general discussion of mid-game plot points, then keep watching. Let's begin then with our introductions to Cyberpunk. I knew almost nothing about the game except that I remember seeing the game reveal with Keanu Reeves and the whole "you're breathtaking" moment. But what was this game? Some futuristic dystopia where body modification is an obsession? Nah, that's not my thing. Way back in 2019, I hadn't even heard of CD Projekt Red. Since then I've played Witcher 3 and enjoyed it, but even then I never really thought too much about Cyberpunk 2077. I suppose I was a little curious and thought maybe one day I might take a look. As I mentioned in our podcast episode, I added Cyberpunk to my Steam wishlist, and it's been there for a couple of years, but I knew nothing about this game or this world. Cyberpunk was always I'll give it a try one day, instead of a must play. So cue Friday 27th of September. I'm sitting at my PC in the evening. It's been a hectic week at work, and I was relaxing with a few very nice ales, wondering what to play. Cyberpunk Ultimate Edition, which includes the Phantom Liberty expansion, is on sale. I make an impulse purchase. I'm fortunate to have high-speed internet here, so the game does not take long to download and install. And damn, it is very hard to properly explain. But this story immediately grabbed my attention. I picked the Nomad path and driving across the empty, sandy Badlands, the lights of Night City visible in the distance, heading into the bustling metropolis, meeting new people and being swept up into a dramatic heist. And then there's that moment when you wake up in a garbage dump. I was hooked. No, I was obsessed. When we walk out of our apartment in Mega Building 10 and we meet Jackie at the street food stall, damn does this game make a first impression. Multiple levels of road and metro, busy with cars and people, a view into the distance of the Corpo district. Holy shit, this world that they've created hits like a truck.
Cyberpunk 2077 is one of those games that, upon its first trailer back in 2013, grabbed me by the throat and said, "You are going to like this game whether you want to or not." And well, here we are. After seeing that first trailer, I dove headfirst into the Cyberpunk universe. I sought out the TTRPG books online and got hooked on Mike Pondsmith's vision of the not-so-distant future. I've loved sci-fi for as long as I can remember, so it was no surprise that I fell in love with the high-tech science, the cyber, and the rich political commentary, the punk, of the Cyberpunk universe. When I finally got a chance to play the game for myself, I was hooked from the moment the title screen loaded. From the music and visuals to the dialogue and gameplay, it all made my little gamer heart sing. Welcome to Night City, the city of crushed dreams, 1,000 stories, and 1,000,000 XP points. Welcome, says the game, to the dark future. Cyberpunk 2077 gives you the choice of 3 life paths: Corpo, Nomad, and Street Kid. To maximise my punk immersion, I chose the Street Kid life path on my first playthrough. I put my skill points into net running, got chipped with a sleek pair of mantis blades, and truly became a nightmare of mind and machine. I took on weird gigs, cried at dialogue, and laughed more times than I could count. I fell in love with the world of Night City and the characters that inhabited it. I fell in love to the point of multiple cosplays, a couple thousand words of fan fiction. It's a game that has given me creative inspiration and community. My love of Cyberpunk didn't just come from 2077. It came from the original TTRPG from Mike Pondsmith, from the team at Artus Lorien Games, and from the CD Projekt Red teams, to the works of William Gibson and Walter John Williams. My love for the genre is fueled by the rich characters, evolving worlds, and commentary on our place in these worlds.
Cyberpunk 2077 creates a world that feels real. It creates a world that feels like it was there long before you, and it creates a world that feels like it will exist long after you are gone. You can never repeat that first run experience of playing a game of this scale, choosing an ending and seeing it through, but when I think about the endings, it is a bleak story, it is melancholic. The gameplay loop is simple enough, and it's incredibly addictive. Pick up a job, a gig, or a main story job, decide how to approach it, and go have fun. And it's in that decide how to approach it part that Cyberpunk really excels. I mentioned the variety before. There is huge variety in your character build and customizations, your weapons, and therefore your approach to each gig and each job. Are you a pacifist? You can choose to stealth the mission, steal the data and leave. You can go in fists only. You can use power snipers and snipe the enemies through walls. And the hacking, oh my word, the hacking. This dark future where the wall between technology and biology is breaking down allows for a huge variety of hacking approaches to missions. I love the netrunner approach to this game. Want to distract guards to a location? Hack a vending machine to spit out dozens of cans of Nicola Blue. Now you have the guards gathered around. Want to take them out? Infect one of them with contagion hack so their cyberware fluids begin leaking, spreading the contagion to other guards nearby. Now you want to really have fun? Send an overheat hack to one of those infected guards. The fluids will catch fire and explode, killing all of the guards instantly. Want to scout a route into an encounter space? Hack a camera, take control and survey the area. Need to disable the camera or turn them off with a quick hack, or throw a knife or use a silenced pistol. Sneak in, find that computer that controls the surveillance system and turn off all the cameras with a single press of a button. The variety of gameplay approaches in Cyberpunk is incredible. Open world games sometimes struggle with balancing the central story and the side content, but what really impressed me about Cyberpunk is how it balances that moment-to-moment gameplay with the overarching V and Johnny Silverhand plot. The game uses a number of tools for storytelling. On their own, none of them are unique. None of them are anything that you've not seen before. You can interact with characters through dialogue. You can interact through collecting text notes, which are contextualized as electronic data tabs that you pick up. But and again, this is not unique to Cyberpunk, but what the game does brilliantly is the phone calls through the Hollow. You can call different people in the world and they will call you or exchange text messages with you. These are not freeform text messages, they're scripted, but the genius for me of where this really hit was how it allowed the passage of time. It really feels like a dynamic world where people are living their lives, doing their things, and then contacting you as a mercenary when they need your help. And this happens time and again throughout the game. There are characters that you will interact with or you will get to know, and days and weeks later they will pop up asking for help with some personal challenge, or maybe someone needs a knife in the guts. I know none of these things are unique to Cyberpunk, but all of these elements are brought together to really make this city and this world feel living. The clock is ticking. How will V resolve the challenges that lay before them? The central part of this is Johnny Silverhand. At key points you are going to have deep conversations with Johnny, and you will see V and Johnny evolving as they get to know each other better, each learning from the other. But, and sometimes more interestingly, it's in the many side jobs and even the small gigs that only take a minute or two to complete, where Johnny will pop up with some observations or commentary on how to approach the problem, or what it means for the people of Night City, the corporations that run and are destroying the city. His comments are often acerbic, witty, blunt, but also insightful, and they challenge V's worldview and our own. To compare to Assassin's Creed, the relationship between Johnny Silverhand and V is the complete opposite of the relationship between Eivor and Javi, for example, which was forgettable and it felt mostly pointless. As I played Cyberpunk 2077, I felt constantly engaged by both gameplay and story.
Asking me how to describe what I feel playing Cyberpunk is like asking a parent to pick their favourite child. It's a complicated task. I have so many feelings about this game, its story, and its troubled development. There are so many words that I could use to describe how I feel when I play. Happy, sad, conflicted, and heartbroken. But perhaps most of all, I feel deeply human when playing. Games only exist because of the talented humans behind them. Every little detail in Night City was placed there by a developer, and every line of dialogue was written by a writer who most likely thought over that line 1,000 times before implementing it in the game. It's only fair that when playing a game created by so many talented humans, that I feel human when playing. For all its colourful neon and gleaming chrome, at its core, Cyberpunk 2077 is a story of human survival. You play as a mercenary named V, who, after a heist gone wrong, ends up with the engram of Johnny Silverhand in their head. This engram is slowly overriding V's personality, and the game's main plot is finding a cure before time runs out. Like many first-person games, Cyberpunk 2077 puts you in the protagonist's shoes and tells you to walk. This is not just V and Johnny's story, this is your story now. The great thing about games is that you, the player, are the one driving the story. It's you pushing buttons and keys that advance the story. That direct input lends itself to a story that resonates with the player perhaps even deeper than a third-person narrative does, simply because not only are you playing as V, you are V. In fact, the only time that the game switches to third person is in the endings, where we are no longer the one controlling V's story, because it's now up to them to see how their story ends. Cyberpunk 2077 is a highly immersive game. Sounds, visuals, story, and vibes all contribute towards an immersive story. For me, the most immersive part of the game is its protagonist. I love V for a multitude of reasons. Vocal performances by Jeremy Lee and Gavin Dreyer bring so much life to this character, and they both bring such subtleties to the character of V. Dreyer brings a lightness to male V, often delivering his lines with barely contained laughs. His portrayal of male V also brings a sensitivity not often seen in male protagonists. Meanwhile, towards the latter half of the game, Lee gives a weariness to female V, her lines laced with a tiredness and confusion. Her portrayal is tough, rough, and full of vulnerability. Another thing I love about V is their place in the story. Yes, they are the main character, but they're not the hero of the grander story, nor are they the villain, and I love that. Cyberpunk 2077 doesn't make me feel like a savior of the world or a scourge upon it. It makes me feel like a person trying to do anything they can to survive. Cyberpunk makes me feel a lot of ways when I play. It makes me sad, happy, contemplative, and free. But most of all, it makes me feel human due to its daring tale of survival, exploration of grief, and thanks to the brilliant human artists behind the game, who took their time to create this digital world.
Okay, let's talk Johnny Silverhand. I already mentioned him earlier, and Rue has already spoken about him as well. I knew nothing about the Cyberpunk universe when I started the game, other than Keanu Reeves played this character, and he is, of course, breathtaking. But my word, Johnny is fantastic. From a gaming point of view, he fulfills that role of a companion character, but a companion with a real unique twist, deeply connected to the existing universe and lore of what is technically possible in the Cyberpunk universe. But he goes beyond many companion characters in that he will sometimes act as the antagonist, sometimes the protagonist, and often as V's conscience. I think the real genius of the story's structure and the writing is that Johnny Silverhand progresses from being the guy who slams V against the window in their apartment to a welcome friend whom I come to respect and enjoy the presence of his company, just as it would feel for V. When we see him in flashbacks, he is self-absorbed, self-aggrandizing, but Johnny also changes in his time with V, and the closing comments between the two characters are beautifully moving. Cyberpunk offers 7 story endings. With careful use of manual saves, you can experience all of them in a single playthrough if you want to. And you will need to do that if you're aiming for the platinum. However, playing the game again, making different choices and choosing different endings is a really interesting meta commentary on Johnny and how through V he gets a second chance at life. Would Johnny do everything the same way? Would he make the same choices? Will you? Let's talk briefly about the expansion, Phantom Liberty. Oh boy. A sudden crackle of static and a mysterious voice on the holo. Someone is in trouble. V is the only one who can help. A damsel in distress? Oh, heck no. If Cyberpunk's central story is about V saving themselves, Phantom Liberty asks V to save someone else, but should they? Can they be saved? Phantom Liberty has such a different vibe to the main game, from the sprawling and detailed open world where you are a tiny cog in a machine of corpo scum and criminal gangs. Here, we are thrust into a spy thriller. We're no longer V, we're James Bond or perhaps Jason Bourne. At the centre of the story is Song So-mi, a netrunner for the new USA and President Maya's right-hand woman. So-mi's story is a mirror of V's story. You look at what she does and what she's willing to do for freedom, and you, as V, must ask yourself the same question. Are you willing to do the same? How far are you willing to go? What will you sacrifice for a chance? So-mi's scenes are so well written and well performed by Minji Chang that they can be interpreted in many different ways. Pleas for help, manipulation, desperation, all of the above. Solomon Reed might be the straightest, most honest guy in Night City. Can he be trusted? He was also fucked over by the NUSA in some ways, but do you trust him? Is he just another corpo? What parallels would you draw between Solomon Reed and Goro Takamura? What impressed me about Cyberpunk was the consistency of the presentation, the seamless transition from open world to scripted scenes. One of CDPR's objectives with the game was no loading screens, never cut away, and they delivered. The dev team did an incredible job blending the two together. I know this sounds stupid, but I was probably 50 hours in before I sort of pulled myself out of the immersion and realised that the camera never cuts away. There are scenes that are fully performance captured, but what's interesting about this game is it can actually be very hard to tell the difference between those auto or human animated scenes and those performance captured scenes. The gap is very, very small, much smaller than we would observe with Assassin's Creed Mirage, Valhalla and Odyssey. And as I said a moment ago, it's almost so subtle you don't notice it. You accept it to be true, and it takes the immersion to another level. I'm sure that Cyberpunk is not the only game to have done this, but I was blown away by how seamless the player-controlled parts of the game and the scripted parts of the game blend together. And they use these scenes so well to transmit information to players. One that sticks in my mind is towards the end of one of the story endings. Rogue is speaking on the holo, but she's also tapping her fingers on the table in front of her. Her words are sending one message on the phone, but the movement of her hands, the very detailed animation of how she taps the table, sends a completely different message that betrays the undercurrent of her emotions.
To the surprise of absolutely no one, I struggle to choose a favourite character. I love V, I love Judy and Pan Am, Victor Vector is my best friend, and I would do anything for Jackie Wells. Hell, Night City is one of my favourite characters. The winding streets of the city on the edge of tomorrow being a character in of itself. But I want to take a moment, or several, to talk about NC's favourite revolutionary rocker boy, Johnny Silverhand. Johnny Silverhand is hands down one of my favourite characters in gaming. He is as intriguing as he is irritating. Mocapped and voiced by the brilliant Keanu Reeves, Johnny is a complex and compelling individual. He is the unreliable narrator of our story, a constant companion providing commentary, both helpful and mocking. He is a character rich with intrigue, and over the course of the game, we see the tough rockaboy layers get stripped away and we learn of the troubled and traumatized man that lays underneath. I love the way in which Johnny changes over the story. Sure, he is still an arrogant, egotistical asshole of a rockaboy, but he has a little bit more heart at the end of the story, and much of this change is thanks to a certain Merc. I'm just gonna say it, Johnny and V are soulmates. Romantic or platonic, doomed or destined, they are two sides of the same messed up coin whether they like it or not. V is the driving force behind Johnny wanting to be a better person, and depending on the choices you make, Johnny becomes that better person. No matter your affinity with him, by the end of the story, Johnny is a changed man, and it's all thanks to V and their personalities bleeding into one another, thanks to the relic. With such a strong relationship at the core of its game, it's no wonder that one of the game's strongest moments, and one of my favourite moments in gaming, centres around this relationship. The conversation that Johnny and V have at the Hotel Pistis Sophia is core in developing not only their relationship with one another, but their relationship with the player, particularly the player's relationship with Johnny. Up until now, Johnny has been a constant presence in V's story, popping up in quests to deliver nuggets of witty dialogue and barbed insults. But that's about all we know about the guy. We know that he was the frontman of Samurai who led a strike against Arasaka that resulted in a nuke being set off in the heart of Night City. But we don't know the guy. The Hotel Pistis Sophia changes that. After a particularly debilitating relic malfunction, Johnny takes control of V and drags them to a beat-up motel by the name of the Pistis Sophia in Pacifica. It's there that we learn a little bit about the man behind the rockaboy facade. In this dialogue-heavy scene, we learn that Johnny was born Robert John Linder and was a deserter of the Second Central American conflict, the conflict in which he gained his iconic silver cyberarm. Johnny gives V his dog tags, and a promise that when the time comes, it'll be his life for theirs. This quest is amongst my favourite moments for a multitude of reasons. For one, it's the first time that V and Johnny actually talk to one another, not as host and parasite, but as relative equals. Second, it functions as a metaphorical save point within the story. As the sun rises over the decaying facade of the Pistis Sophia, Johnny and V get to enjoy a moment of relative calm amongst the chaos and danger of Night City, as does the player. I remember after this scene, I parked my V outside the hotel facing the sunrise and watched the digital sun dance across the sky as I took in the conversation that just transpired. Cyberpunk 2077 has a lot of great moments. Exhilarating hover tank fights, flashy firefights, and dramatic heists. But it's the moment of relative calm that I like the most. I like the moments that allow V, and the player, a moment to think. The skillfully crafted characters and moments of Cyberpunk 2077 are what make this game unique. Cyberpunk revels in the grand spectacle of the future with its gameplay, but also makes room to appreciate the smaller, quieter, more emotive moments in order to make the player relate to the world and to the characters.
From a strictly gaming point of view, Cyberpunk 2077 has set a new baseline for me for what is possible in a video game. The expanse of the city, the immersion of the world, the subtlety of the writing and the emotions. My word, the emotions. Those that have listened to us on the podcast for a long time will know that I loved Odyssey. It swept me away on an epic adventure, and in 2019 it set my personal baseline for a gaming dramatic experience. Horizon Zero Dawn built on that with its incredible sci-fi storyline. Cyberpunk has taken that baseline to a new level, and I do wonder if or when it will be exceeded. CDPR are working on Project Orion, which is a new game set in the universe, so let's see what that delivers. Cyberpunk's story is full of elements of hope. Can you save yourself? Can you do a little good in this city of dreams? Can you enrich the lives of those around you? Or actually, screw the world, this is about me. That's your choice in how you roleplay. I know it's a joke and it's a trope to say that it's the friends we made along the way, but there's a strong thread throughout Cyberpunk of a small number of people who remain uncorrupted by Night City, and they are there for V, and these relationships are subtle and gentle and impactful. Now, from a personal and emotional point of view, last year was a tough year for me. I lost someone very close to me, and it hit me and my entire family very hard, but this game, strange as it might sound, it helped me come to terms with some of that grief. The story and the gameplay engaged my brain, and the catharsis this game story delivered helped me process my grief and begin to accept the loss.
There are lines from media that stick with me long after I've finished them. Quotes that I keep in the back of my head, ready to pull forward whenever I need motivation or a little pick-me-up. Cyberpunk is no different. This game is full of many brilliant and memorable quotes that have stuck with me since my first playthrough. Give yourself time. Ideas will come. Life will shake you, roll you, maybe embrace you. The music will find you. This is a line spoken by Johnny in the Temperance ending of the game. Without getting too deep into the spoilers for that game ending, it's a profoundly poignant quote in relation to the story. Given as a piece of advice to a young musician who is trying to find his way in a creative field, it's a line that's stuck with me since I first played that ending. Intentional or not, games can teach us things, both about ourselves and the world. By experiencing the story of someone else and virtually walking in their shoes, we can learn a lot. Cyberpunk is a game about so many things. Hope, grief, perseverance, and identity are all themes that come to mind when I think of Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk comforted me in grief and reminded me that change doesn't have to be a bad thing. It reminded me that sometimes you need to let the music come to you, and that most importantly, it reminded me that no matter how bleak it gets, to never fade away.
I said in our 2024 Game Awards episode that Cyberpunk was my game of the year, and at that time I'd completed my first run through the game as a nomad, and I'd started a second run as a street kid. As Rue and I work on this script and we get the video together in late January, I finished my street kid run, and I've immediately started another run as a corpo, but this time I'm walking more, I'm exploring more and spending even more time soaking up Night City. And I can tell you this, you can run through the main story, treat it as an action adventure and have fun, but the more you give to this game, the more it gives in return. It is breathtaking. Sure, there are a few things I could nitpick about. Yes, once or twice NPCs spawned in without the cars they were supposed to be driving, and yes, I think your street cred level should have been more reflected than just getting new contracts from fixers, but these are minor quibbles. I cannot emphasize enough how much of a triumph I think this game is. The detailed and dynamic city, the engaging and varied approaches to missions, the thought-provoking story, the well-written and memorable characters. This game elicits feelings while you play, and then, you know that empty feeling when a game's credits roll and you just sit back in your chair and your brain is empty because you've used up all your emotions? This game has that in spades.
When recommending this game to friends, I give them a dozen reasons why they should play. Combat is fun and interesting, I say. The world is stunning, I say. The story will make you stare at your screen as the credits roll, I say. And then, I say, you'll go online and you'll find a whole community of people who love this game and who all took away something unique from it. Some took life lessons, others found comfort in the inevitable, and many found new friends and new creativity from the game. Play Cyberpunk. Play the different life paths. Pick different dialogue choices and explore the beautifully crafted digital world of Night City. Play the different endings and feel your heart ache at each of them. Play Cyberpunk to experience one of the coolest redemption stories in the industry thus far and see the talent of humans behind the scenes who created this digital wonder. Play this game because maybe, just maybe, the music will find you.
So there we are. I'm currently doing the video edit with my audio track and with Rue's audio track. This is probably going to be the longest scripted video we've done on our channel. Very different in style, I guess. Hope you enjoyed it and we maybe explained a little of what this game is and what this game means to us. I'm just going to close by saying, hey, if you enjoyed it, let us know. But really, I'm just going to say thank you to my chum on the other side of the world, Rue. Pleasure to work with you, pleasure to write with you. I hope we did this game and the many years of close association you've had with this game some justice. See you in the major leagues.